When it comes to technology, it's inevitable that gremlins will come out and play. These gremlins can take all sorts of forms, including your videos freezing on the most unflattering of frames, your software shutting down for no apparent reason, random sounds in your audio, the internet going out right before your next live, and so much more. Now, before you decide that these gremlins are too much of a pain to deal with in order to create your podcast, remember this. These gremlins serve a purpose, albeit a rather annoying one. The gremlins appear to test your resolve, your patience, and your follow-through. Today, we're going to dive into strategies you can put into place right away whenever those gremlins come to play. Happy Halloween and welcome to episode number 245 of the In a Weekend podcast. I'm your host, Yong Pratt, and I help female business owners launch their podcasts in as little as a weekend by repurposing the content they're already creating so that they can grow their audiences, expand their reach, and gain more new clients. Today's episode and its title were inspired by my youngest, Daphne. She was creating the artwork for our recent miniseries, Variety is the Spice in Your Podcasting Life. We got to talking about Halloween and possible topics for the episode that would air today on Halloween. I proposed a title like Something Spooky, and really diving into the fact that there are only 2 months left in this decade to launch your podcast. She immediately said, "Mom, that's boring." Then she excitedly started talking about all the scarier creatures that are often seen on the streets at Halloween. The monsters, the ghosts, and of course, the gremlins. And the title of this podcast was born, and Daphne set out to create yet another graphic for today's episode as well. You can see samples of her artwork at yongpratt.com/245. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to encourage you to include your kiddos in your business. For me, one of the biggest joys in my business has been empowering my kids with skills like creating artwork and giving them ownership of these tasks. There's nothing quite like watching your kiddos come to life when you start to recognize their gifts and their talents, and they learn to contribute in a meaningful way. My girls are now 13 and 16 and have been contributing to our businesses for literally years now. Just remember that not all kids will resonate with all the tasks in your business. You'll have to do a bit of sleuthing to discover the right tasks for the right kiddo. The effort, however, that you'll expend in empowering your kiddos, plus the added time you'll spend together, is more than worth it. Now, let's talk about those gremlins, shall we? I have 3 scenarios for you today and 3 solutions for each. Scenario number 1. The internet goes out right before your scheduled live event. Living in a small town, internet and cell service can often be spotty. It's happened multiple times now, including yesterday, when right before I had something scheduled live, the internet goes out. Now, because I know this scenario is really close to my reality, I now have several backup plans in place. Here are some examples. Number 1, I can use my cell phone service to post on social or send an email letting people know that the video will be postponed. Number 2, I can move myself to a location where I can get cell service like a coffee shop or shopping center. And number 3, I can choose to use my smartphone to go live using my cell service. Are any of these solutions ideal? Not really, because I have a home studio and I definitely prefer to go live from my desktop with an external microphone and camera so that I can get the best results. However, when push comes to shove, getting things done is much better than doing things perfectly. Scenario number 2. Your live video freezes. Live video is just like live theater in the sense that you just never know what's going to happen. After running a performing arts studio for 17 years and producing many, many live shows, I was always still surprised when things went differently than I planned, but that's the beauty of live theater. When the Gremlins come to play, and they likely will come to play at some time during one of your lives, it's bound to happen right in the middle of an awesome interview or an episode, and then your video will freeze with the most unflattering image left on the screen for everyone to stare at for a long time. Now here's what you can do next time the Gremlins come to play on your live. Number 1, all you can do is laugh about it. Number 2, use one of the plans that I shared previously. And of course, number 3, regroup and reconvene to continue the conversation if you're able. While it can be super frustrating for your video or your interview to not go as planned, and having to start up and try to pick up where you left off can be tricky, I've learned that often the conversations that happen after these types of events are even better than before. Weird, but totally true. Scenario number 3. Your audio recordings have unusual spikes or sounds. Audio recording software can be very sensitive to the other equipment or electronic devices in your recording space. Before I understood the interference caused by other equipment, I would literally throw my hands up in frustration because I couldn't figure out why my audio had weird sounding sections or that the pauses between words had humming type sounds. Sometimes the humming was there, sometimes it wasn't. It really felt like the Gremlins were playing tricks on me. Then I started moving things around in my recording space, unplugging equipment, turning equipment off and on, and then re-recording. Here are 3 ways that you can reduce background noise in your audio recordings. Number 1, turn off or unplug what isn't necessary to recording. For example, I'll unplug my external hard drive when I'm recording, as it can sometimes be heard running during audio recordings, and especially I found that it's responsible for a lot of the noise I couldn't quite pinpoint in years past. I'll also often keep my lights off in the recording studio as well because they tend to hum by themselves normally, and I want to reduce that noise as much as possible. Number 2, close out of all applications. If you're using a computer-based audio editing program like Audacity, close out any other applications that may be running in the background, causing your computer to work harder than it needs to. If I use a laptop to record audio, I'm hyper aware of closing out of everything I don't need so that the fan doesn't have to keep running during my audio recordings, which inevitably means I'll have to re-record again. So definitely make sure you close out of those applications. And number 3, use an external microphone instead of your computer's onboard microphone. Since most people listen to podcasts with earbuds or headphones, the background noise in your episodes is more noticeable when wearing headphones than listening on a device like a computer. Placing the external microphone close to me as I speak and record these podcasts has helped considerably to cut down on the outside noises that can definitely be distracting to podcast listeners. When using tech to record audio and video, it is inevitable that the Gremlins will come out to play from time to time. Recording the next episode of your podcast or live video that you'll turn into a podcast episode is worth the effort of dealing with a couple of Gremlins. As a business owner We love having control over just about everything in our businesses. When the gremlins come to play, it forces us to give up control from time to time, which might actually be a good thing. Facing down the gremlins, especially those that come to play whenever we use technology, allows us to tap into and strengthen our problem-solving skills, which helps us become better business owners. Plus, your viewers and your listeners are watching. They're looking to see if you give up or if you keep showing up. Choosing to fight the gremlins is always worth it so that your audience, your tribe, knows that showing up for them is important to you. Now, I want to hear from you. Head over to yongpratt.com/245 and tell me about the gremlins you've faced when recording your podcast episodes or live videos. Next week, I have a treat for you. Angie Trueblood is our guest, and she'll be sharing the benefits of your being a guest on other people's podcasts. Until then, have a fun-filled Halloween and face down those tech gremlins and show them who's boss. Cheers.